Hello my creative peeps and welcome back for today's video. Today is the second installment of the I Try Your Wishlist Supply series, which is the series where you suggest supplies that you'd like to try. I put it to a vote to my patrons, and whichever one gets the most votes is the one I try for the month. So this month's supply that was chosen was the Woody 3-in-1 pencils. Now, this isn't something I know a huge amount about. I did do a little bit of research before I purchased them, but not too much. These are purchased with my own money, so they're not sponsored. Everything I say is something that came from me, you know? So we're going to try them out. I'm going to unbox them with you, test them out on various journals, and then I'll spend a week or two working with them, and then I'll come back and give you kind of my formal thoughts and reviews. So without further ado, let's get into it, shall we? So this is the set that I purchased. This is the largest set you can get. It's 18 colors. I was going to get a smaller set, but I of course wanted turquoise, so I had to get the big one to get the turquoise. There's several different options. I was shocked to find out that these are for children because they are so pricey. So I'm excited to kind of see what the hype is about. It says on the back here they are a multi-talented pencil. They can act as a coloring pencil, a wax crayon, and a watercolor all in one. They are water soluble. They say they have strong covering power and intense color, even on the darkest papers and glass. They are unbreakable, thick wooden pencils with XXL lead, ideal for little children's hands. So, first off, first impressions. I was shocked that this box is so big. I am not going to lie, I was expecting a box, you know, a third of the size maybe, or at least half. But this box is huge. For comparison, this is my planner. This is a half letter size planner. So I don't know if there's a bunch of packaging in here that makes the box so huge, but we're about to find out, right? So I already cut the tape on it. Let's take a look. Okay. All right. Not as big as the box makes them look, but they're still pretty huge. So we got our 18 colors. The set comes with a brush and a sharpener. They do sell these, from what I could see, individually on Dick Blick. I debated on going that route and just getting a couple colors I would use, which normally I advise you guys to do, but you have to have the special sharpener to go with it, and they didn't have that on the website, so for ease, I bought the whole set. So we got black, brown, purple. Let's see, do these have color names on them? They do not. They have a number, but no color names. Do they feel? They definitely feel like a wax pastel. They feel very soft. I saw on the box, where was it? Here on the box, it has this little icon that says no higher than 30 degrees Celsius or 85 degrees Fahrenheit. So I assume that these will melt if they get too hot, which is something I guess you should note if you live in a warm climate, right? These are giant. So I'm going to take them all out, and then we'll start to work with them. Have them all out. Let's get out my paper. It says that they write on black. So I have this piece of black scrapbooking paper to test this out. Just like a little scrap from my scrap bin. So I guess we'll just start. They're definitely chunky. It makes me want to like scribble with it. So I guess we'll just do some swatches. I'm also going to swatch them on my journal here, which is not great paper. Oh, the black does show up on the scrapbooking paper. It definitely felt the best going on to this paper. This is moleskin paper. It's not meant to handle water or anything, like this watercolor paper is, but that's why I like to try it on multiple things, just to give you guys a better idea. You can see the brown on top of the black too. Oops. Probably should have left myself some room for a header here, but I'm interested to see, do they, oh, they do smudge out. So if you, I wouldn't use that just as like a colored pencil if it's gonna smudge, you know? That's definitely more like a pastel to me than a pencil. I mean, it's in the pencil casing, but when I put down a colored pencil, I expect it to stay put, you know? I don't want it to be like mushing around, because if you just, even if you just brushed your hand over it, yeah, it just like smudges. So good to know, good to know. Let's keep going. Alright, so here are the swatches. I would say they definitely show up on black as, you know, suggested. The metallic doesn't color so well on the paper without the grit, but I feel like a lot of metallic ones are like that. Right off the bat, this is definitely feeling like a child set. Definitely like fun to have this nice chunky feel to it, but the colors are just like, I don't know, like you would get in your most basic set of Crayola, you know what I mean? Like crayons, wax crayons. So let's test out the watercolor aspect of it. Oh my. Okay. And we're gonna do it on both papers so you guys can see. Let me put some wax paper under here so that I don't get any bleed through. Well, I'll get bleed through, but so that it doesn't go onto the other page. Should we try the wet on the black? Why not, right? All right. So I'm going to continue on with this and we'll come back. while we're waiting for all these to dry, I want to go ahead and try, I'm going to take my least favorite color in case this turns out horrible, but I'm going to try to sharpen this pencil down to a point just to see if you can do it, right? Because at this point, I don't really see the advantage of using it like a pencil unless you can somehow sharpen it into a super fine point. It's looking like it's just taking the wood off. Yeah. It's like stopping the pencil where it is and just taking the wood off. And that diameter is pretty big. So I think this is as like pointy as they get. Correct me if I'm wrong and you have these, but like, okay. So whatever you're drawing with this, let's try a nice color. Whatever you're drawing with this, you're not going to be getting like super fine details. I mean, if you use the edge, that's not bad, but it's so big it forces you to be loose. You have the illusion of control because it's a pencil, but maybe it's just because I have little hands. You're not, I don't think, gonna get like super precise lines with it. All right, I want to try a couple of my other crayon type things. I have like the Caran d'Ache Neocolor 2s, which I really love. I also have some scribble sticks. I'm going to pick out a couple colors that seem like they are close, or at least try to be close to what is offered here. So this is a Distress crayon, which to me feels very similar. You know, it's got that same goopy texture to it. You can smudge it. So, oops, let's put this on the black too. You can kind of see it on the black. Let's do this Caran d'Ache Neocolor 2. Again, definitely can see it on the black. And I'm going to go ahead and write down his name next to it so I don't forget. This is the Neocolor 2. Which, yeah, they smudge, but definitely not as much. They smudge a little, but they're more waxy. The Neocolor 2s are more waxy. And then this is the scribble stick. Which, again, you can kind of smudge, but they're more waxy feeling, like the Neocolor 2s. Okay. Let's water these down. All right, I'm gonna let these dry some more and then we will come back and talk about some thoughts. All right, here's what everything looks like when it's dry. It doesn't really have, it doesn't rub off after you've watered it down and made it dry, which is good. It doesn't have like a chalky feeling either, so that's nice. It does kind of still feel a little bit like waxy. As you can see, trying to write over it, I only tried a ballpoint pen, but I did notice even after you have wet it and let it dry, it does re-wet and move around still. As you can see with this green here, I reactivated it and moved the color around, and it's like watercolor in that way. So I'm not going to try to write over it with something like a Tombow marker, because it's just going to reactivate it and it's going to make my marker messy, and the wax in it is going to ruin it. Same with your pen. You're not going to be able to go over this with a fine liner without worrying about ruining it. You can't write over the wax pastel before it's been wet down, but it seems to do okay once it has been wet down. That's, I mean, as to be expected, right? It's a bunch of wax and pigment. You don't really want to write over it, but I like to be as thorough as I can for you guys. So that's kind of what's up with that. In terms of wetting it on the black, you can definitely tell that the pigment separates from the binder when it's wet down, which isn't a problem on regular white paper. It still creates that beautiful watercolor effect, but with the black paper, it definitely does not, in my opinion at least, look great. The metallic colors, you can definitely see some mica in the gold once you wet it down. They basically become, you know, transparent and non-existent once they're wet down. There's a little shimmer, but nothing to really write home about. That's usually my experience with most metallic colors, but I figured that was worthy of noting. So those are kind of my first impressions. I'm not really sure, besides their fact that they're in this wood, what the advantage is of them over other, like say the Neocolor 2s. So I'm excited to experiment with this Stabilo in different ways and come back to you kind of my final thoughts with pros and cons and a little bit of comparison and such. So I'll be back. Welcome back. You know the drill. It's a couple weeks later and let's talk about this. So real quick, when I'm talking about the Stabilo and giving this review, I'm not really talking about water-soluble pastels in general. While I could and I do compare it to other brands, I tried to focus on the Stabilo 3-in-1 specifically and my thoughts on this brand and in particular, because that's what you guys had requested. So just a little side note on that. Let's talk about what I did with them and then we'll get into the pros and cons. So some fun things that I tried with them, I did this mixing. So I put two colors down together and mixed them together. That worked really well. I put them on a plastic sheet and then used them like watercolor. They were very, very pale when I did that, but it gave these nice, really light washes. One of the things that I did as well with these was I would scribble them down and then put like gesso or white paint over the top and water them down that way. And it created this really nice paint, which was cool. That was my favorite way I found to use them. So I actually did a whole page of swatches that way. So you can kind of see, these are like here, let me show you on my swatch card that you'll be able to see better. These are like the really bright color versions, and then these are how they water down. They do keep quite a bit of their vibrancy, but I just thought it was a fun way to use them. So I guess it is another technique you could use with like water-soluble wax crayons, but yeah, that was really fun. I also tried the same techniques with the Neocolor, which we'll talk about why I did that in a minute, but they came out with pretty much the same results. Ways that I used them in my journal. I did go ahead and test them in this. I used them for some mark baking. This is what the blue is. So I kind of went over the acrylic ink from our last review. If you missed that and you want to see that, I'll leave it linked in the cards. But I just used it to, you know, kind of scribble around. And I wanted to see if I scribbled lightly, if it would smudge off like I was talking about. And it does if you push on it. I mean, your finger's moist. It's gonna move around. But it was fun just to, like, you know, the act of scribbling with the crayon was fun. So I did that. And then in here, I used it I did a little bit of a background here with it. I used it to make these lines. I found if you go over the lines with a wet brush and dissolve all the pigment, you can easily write over it. So I kind of did my line page there. This is all that technique that I was talking about where I scribbled the pastel down, and then I keep calling it a pastel. It's a crayon. Just bear with me. Long day. But I scribbled the crayon down and then went over it with paint. So that was fun. I think that's about all I was able to do with it. I didn't spend a large amount of time, just a lot of kind of playing around with the different things. So some pros and cons. Pros, they're really chunky to hold in your hand, which creates like a fun experience. The colors are super vibrant. There's lots of pigment, and the way that they're made, you get, I assume, a good amount of product in that kind of wood pencil. They are water soluble, which is really fun. They mix easily when you water them down. They're nice and creamy. The experience of using them is very nice. The cons, the color range is very limited. This is the entire color range. You can't get anything more than this, these 18 colors. You have to have a special sharpener for them, which we already talked about because they're so chunky. The metallics are meh, you know, which is kind of, most metallics are kind of whatever. They're very high priced in comparison to other similar products. I think they are very comparable to the Caran d'Ache Neocolor 2s. These are something that I would consider to be more of a high priced artist supply. I really enjoy these. They're my favorite brand of water soluble crayons that I've ever tried, next to the Dina Wakley scribble sticks. But when I was looking at purchasing the Stabilo set, the 18 set, I could have purchased a 30 color set of the Caran d'Ache Neocolor 2s from Dick Blick for the same price that I paid for the Stabilo 3-in-1 18 set, which blew my mind when I found that out, because these are kids. Like, these are made for children. Not to say they aren't fun, and you could absolutely use kids supplies. I love, you know, the accessibility of them, but usually kids supplies are more affordable. To pay $40 for 18 colors when I can get an artist quality product of 30 colors for the same price. And to me, that's the biggest con of them. One of the cons that I forgot to write down is the fact that they are very big, so they do take up a lot of space. In my opinion, from a journaler perspective, I don't see the advantage of having the wood core pencil. You can't use the pastel like you would a pencil. It kind of is misleading, in my opinion, the packaging that way when it calls itself a 3-in-1 product. Technically, it is packaged like a pencil, and the outside of it gives you the advantage that it won't break, maybe, if you're heavy-handed. Again, from the perspective of kids using it, that's probably very cool. The colors show up well on dark surfaces, so if you're a kid and you're drawing on cardboard, that would be, a really fun thing to do. But from an art journaler perspective, I don't see the advantage of the wood around it. I actually find it a hindrance because of the like I said, the space that it takes up, and of course the 18 color thing. Now, if you're someone who likes this color set, maybe this is the only set you'll want and this works for you. I'm not trying to knock the Stabilo. If these are your favorite, please don't come at me. These are just my thoughts, but I would much rather have more colors for my money. And maybe you get a little more product, but I don't think it's that much more to justify the cost of them. That's why I won't be keeping them. I will be destashing them. They're great, but I would much rather continue to expand my Neocolor 2 collection and let somebody else experiment with the Stabilo 3-in-1. They were my favorite. They're nice. They're vibrant. They're very versatile as far as a wax crayon pastel goes. They're pretty high quality and they're fun to play with, but I think they're overpriced for what they are. There, I said it. So that about wraps it up for this review, which was, the Stabilo 3-in-1 for February. If you would like to submit your request for next month's supply, please leave it in the comments below so that I can get those over to my patrons who will be voting on them a week from the posting of this video. I'm so excited to see what you guys choose next. Again, these are all purchased with my own money and these are my own thoughts, just to throw that out there. Thank you so much to my patrons for sponsoring today's video. They help make what I do over here on YouTube possible while still paying my bills and feeding my dog Shadow. So big thank yous to them. Thank you to you guys for watching, because if you weren't here, there wouldn't be a point of me posting this video. I'm so glad that you are enjoying this series, and I can't wait to make the next episode for you. And with all that being said, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. Take care, guys. Bye.